And now let's talk inflation. Up year to year 8.5%. Gasoline prices up year to year 48%. Real wages down year to year 0.8%.
Here we go. Finally, 11.2% is that first year-over-year number on PPI. And, of course, that's a new all-time high. The previous cycle high was, February of 22, up 10%. So pretty much only one metric missed in terms of cycle highs. They were all hotter than expected. And I'm sure this is going to be blamed for everything other than what it is. And that, of course, is that we have supply issues. But more than anything, some of our philosophical issues regarding trade have come back to haunt us and allowed nefarious activity to move on throughout the globe.
Even CNN, the most trusted name in news, admits that the numbers on inflation are the worst ever recorded.
Yeah, economic concerns. So, look, we spoke about this earlier in the week. If you look at jobs, the economy is doing pretty good. You look at inflation, not so good. How do voters see it? How do Americans see it? This is the University of Michigan Consumer Confidence Index through this point of presidency. Look at that. Just 66 in April of 2022, going back since 1978. It is tied for the lowest. It was 66 in April of 1982. Of course, that was a good year for Democrats in the House of Representatives with the Republican president. And I'll just note, if you don't believe that the economy is hurting the Democrats and Joe Biden, look at the net approval rating. That's approval minus disapproval. Joe Biden at this point, minus 23 points. That is the worst on record since they started asking about economic job approval ratings back in 1978 with Jimmy Carter, who, of course, ended up the economy ate his presidency and put it to bits.
But not to fear.
Does the White House still view inflation as transitory?
That is the view of the Federal Reserve and outside economists, and they all continue to project it will come down this year.
And Kamala Harris says, let's acknowledge the acknowledgement.
Well, first of all, I acknowledge one must acknowledge that prices are going up.
The global upheaval caused by Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the crippling sanctions on Russian trade are showing to have massive ripple effects across the world, including right here in the United States. And it's not just at the gas pump. Food prices are soaring right now. And to quote President Biden, with regards to food shortages, it's going to be real. Friends, inflation continues to skyrocket. As a dollar becomes worth less every single day, transition some of your nest egg to something of worth. Gold and silver from Birch Gold. That's right. Birch Gold will help you convert an IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered account in gold and silver. Get started right now by going to LarryForGold.com. With thousands of satisfied customers and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, Birch Gold can help you protect your savings. Get started right now by going to LarryForGold.com to get a free info kit on gold. There is no obligation to get this info. That's LarryForGold.com to protect your savings with gold. And of course, when all else fails, blame price gouging.
So we have to hold large corporations accountable because price gouging is a major part of inflation, right? We're seeing record profits happening, not just with fossil fuel companies, but with tech companies and many organizations and companies. So you want more investigations? So we want more accountability, right? That's why we introduced a bill, the Ending Corporate Greed Act, to hold corporations accountable for the price gouging that's happening. And we're about to introduce another bill tomorrow to go at not just large corporations, but wealthy individuals who continue to profit off of COVID and what's happening with inflation.
Sigh.
When you see around the globe the maldistribution of wealth, the desperate plight of millions of people in underdeveloped countries, when you see so few haves and so many have-nots, when you see the greed and the concentration of power within, did you ever have a moment of doubt about capitalism and whether greed's a good idea to run on?
Well, first of all, tell me, is there some society you know that doesn't run on greed? You think Russia doesn't run on greed? You think China doesn't run on greed? What is greed? Of course, none of us are greedy. It's only the other fellow who's greedy. The world runs on individuals pursuing their separate interests. The great achievements of civilization have not come from government bureaus. Einstein didn't construct his theory under order from a bureaucrat. Henry Ford didn't revolutionize the automobile industry that way. In the only cases in which the masses have escaped from the kind of grinding poverty you're talking about, the only cases in recorded history are where they have had capitalism and largely free trade. If you want to know where the masses are worst off, it's exactly in the kinds of societies that depart from that. So that the record of history is absolutely crystal clear, that there is no alternative way so far discovered of improving the lot of the ordinary people that can hold a candle to the productive activities that are unleashed by a free enterprise system.
But it seems to reward not virtue as much as ability to manipulate the system.
And what does reward virtue? You think a communist commissar rewards virtue? You think a Hitler rewards virtue? You think, excuse me, if you'll pardon me, do you think American presidents reward virtue? Do they choose their appointees on the basis of the virtue of the people appointed or on the basis of their political clout? Is it really true that political self-interest is nobler somehow than economic self-interest? You know, I think you're taking a lot of things for granted. And just tell me where in the world you find these angels who are going to organize society for us. Well, I don't even trust you to do that.
The Biden administration calls it Putin's inflation. Really?
Rick, what were philosophically and trade issues? What were you actually talking about there?
Well, we've been trying to kick out fossil fuels before we have all the welcome mats for the replacements. Okay. It's a really bad idea. We're doing the same thing, by the way, with EVs. We are now, trying to push a whole new sector of technology when we can't even procure all the different minerals that are going in batteries. So the big story today is the Wall Street Journal. GM is trying to source, cobalt. Ford's trying to source cobalt. Are any of these sources in the U.S.? Nay, nay, I say. We're making the same mistakes again. This is even before we ramp up production. Elon Musk is right. We have to get economies of scale. The problem is that nobody in the U.S. wants to do any mining. They would like to do the same thing to mining that they've done to fossil fuels at a time when mining is something we need big time if you're going to go the EV route.
That brings us to the Commander-in-Chief's ratings.
Yeah, I mean, clearly the American public's in a foul mood. They're in a foul mood about the economy. They're in a foul mood about the president and his policies. It doesn't look like very much is going right for President Biden. This 38% is the lowest of his presidency. This is the fourth track.
Lower than Trump? Biden's approval rating, 40.6. Disapproval, 52.3, according to Real Clear Politics average. At the same point in his presidency, President Trump, April 2018, 42%, up a tick to around 42.8% on April 13.
Say it ain't so, Joe. Say it ain't so.
Well, that's all for today's Larry Elder on YouTube. We're now showing a shorter version of our show on YouTube. That's after being censored and demonetized for a whole year. Full episode can be watched on our website, epictv.com/Larry Elder. That's epictv.com/Larry Elder.